the other person could have, let's say, a red mark or a scratch.
Hey, good afternoon. This is David Kohlmeier, the problem solver. Thanks so much for joining us on today's show. I appreciate you joining every single week where I am trying to solve problems locally in Las Vegas and actually nationwide. So we have a lot of different listeners all over the United States. It is on audio, on the podcast, Spotify, all that good stuff. And then we're on Facebook and YouTube. Again, every single Thursday, 4:30 to 5:30, we are live basically talking about problems. I am a retired police officer for 17 years, helping people solve problems. And if I can't solve it, I'm going to bring other problem solvers on the show in order to talk about how we can solve that problem. I do have a progressive web app, which is the problemsolver.vegas. It's an app where you can go online, and if you have specific problems and questions, I'm also available 24/7. My phone number will be listed later on today, but you can call and text anytime, 24/7 if you have a problem. So today I want to introduce two amazing people that are going to be on the show. One is coming in from California on Zoom, and that's Dr. Alex Hakim, who's an ICU doctor out of California. Thanks, Dr. Hakim, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's actually great. This is the first time I've done the whole Zoom thing, so it's kind of cool to do it, even though I've been on other shows like that. And today I have Timothy Revero, who's an attorney at law locally here. Tim, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, good to see you, Dave.
So I thought, it's the end of the year, basically the last podcast. I've actually been doing this for about a year now, and I wanted to bring on some special people. Timothy's been a great attorney and helping a lot of people locally. And then I know that Timothy had a nursing background over 10 years. And then I was thinking about Dr. Alex Hakim in regards to, what's going on with COVID. And I feel like this week, in the last 7 days, like things are changing again. So I think it would be a good topic just to get like a health update. Once a month, the problem solver, we talk about what's going on health-wise. It seems like this thing's not going away and things are changing. So anyway, Dr. Alex Hakim, tell us a little bit what's going on, what you're taking, what's going on. Because in Vegas right now, even though you're in California, like everyone's running to get tested, and then everyone's like kind of confused. Everyone's like getting COVID. I'm getting text messages from people that we know and like, hey, I got COVID. I got the vaccination. I got the booster. It's just so much is going on. It's like a new world. Tell me what your thoughts are. What do you see specifically in California?
Let me first off say that as an ICU physician, you hear about things and you hear it portrayed in the media and by medical experts, and then you see firsthand accounts of what's really happening. And by the time we notice a pattern, it takes months before you hear people echoing those words. So for instance, things really changed from the start of the pandemic to now in terms of these different variants. Clinically, they've been very different. For instance, I'll tell you, and I also want to talk a little bit about common misperceptions and things that I hear on podcasts of people I respect even who say things that are just clearly different than what our experience has been. But just to kind of take you on a course to where we are right now, a lot of people who are young and healthy were being afflicted early on, especially travelers, especially people in high-risk situations that were getting very high viral loads in their environment, poor ventilation, especially hard on the poor communities, Hispanic and African-American communities especially, and whole families were coming in, close contact, close quarters, poor ventilation. And these are people who care deeply about each other. These aren't political actors. These aren't people who were negligent in terms of their health, but they were people who just didn't have time to quarantine from each other, or they didn't have the money or space. Then we go to Delta, and Delta did have that, but it also had similar kind of random people who would fall through the cracks, especially unvaccinated people. I mean, overwhelmingly unvaccinated people falling through the cracks and dying. And so the onus was on people like myself to go to social media, to go to podcasts like this and say, hey, it's not just a rumor. It's not a conspiracy. There are really people who are well-intentioned, healthy individuals who are getting stricken hard. And some of them are even dying who could have been saved by a vaccination. And now we're here at COVID in Omicron land. And I would say that the hype is way exceeding the disease right now. Most of the ICUs, and I don't just follow our ICU, I follow Southern California. I follow the Providence facilities that are in my region. And we don't see the uptick. We don't see the uptick. Does not mean that there aren't people who are getting sick from it, but it's not rising to the level of respiratory failure where people go on the ventilator. And the ventilator, just to put things in perspective, when you have a machine breathing for you, you're on the quote unquote life support, you're talking about a 50% and above mortality rate. So and the people who survive it are probably going to be on it for a couple of weeks. And for the next several months, they'll never be the same in terms of fatigue, in terms of weakness. So it's no joke. By the time you come to the ICU and you're under my care, A, my options are not great. And B, you're going to be either going to be dying or you're going to be under the influence of the virus for months at a time until you start to recover, even strong and healthy-ish people. Now, to put things in perspective, the average age is about 60 to 65 during the pandemic in the ICU, and most people are morbidly obese, but not crazy. It's not an extreme neglect of people's health, like out of control diabetes or people who are cirrhotic or have systemic diseases that are putting them into the ICU. These are a lot of healthy looking people, and I look them straight in the face like I'm looking at you right now. And I have to tell them bad news, or I have to tell family bad news. So I really feel like I have an important burden to share with the public in terms of what I've seen, and also good news. So shifting the subject again to Omicron, I would say overwhelmingly great news, despite the fact that people are bombarding me personally, either to say that they're infected or that they're paralyzed in fear. This is the most spread, the most widespread viral spread I've ever seen of any virus, certainly for the whole pandemic. But I mean, if we look at things like measles and things like chickenpox, I mean, we're talking about something in that proportion. And what a virus does when it gains certain function, in this case, communicability, it loses some function as well. The virus only wants to replicate, doesn't want to kill people necessarily. And certainly this Omicron, based on the early evidence, it's not going to the lungs as much. It's not taking people's oxygen levels down to the point where they're in a life-threatening situation. So I really want to impart good news. I really want to counteract the hysteria that you see out there. I think it's really important. And not because I enjoy doing things like this, although I love to meet with you. I love talking to people about healthcare in general, but I really feel like I have this burden to tell people because I'm dealing with like a monolith of anxiety, and anxiety is not good when it comes to our own healthcare and policy making. When you make decisions at the barrel of a gun, you're going to do things that you're going to regret later. And I think society is experiencing that right now.
What's your thoughts? Everyone talks about like Dr. Fauci, and then I posted something as a joke the other day saying if you have a problem, Dr. Fauci said to call the problem solver, and someone made a joke saying, people don't believe Dr. Fauci. Probably not, wasn't a good comment. I mean, what's your thoughts with Dr. Fauci in general, for one doctor to another, in regards to his messages on weekly? Because people feel like, it's infecting a lot of people, and that does he even know what he's talking about, or he's just guesstimating what's going to take place as well.
I think the number one problem is there's two big problems. The number one problem is you're talking about a moving target. The variants are different in terms of the amount that they can spread, the disease lethality. The people who are getting affected tend to be younger and younger over time. And then they're also dealing with an unknown about what they didn't know. And one thing that I'm very frustrated with in terms of all experts in the medical field, the people who represent me, is the level of certainty that gets portrayed when we really don't know something. And I think that there's this idea that there's a certain requirement of the job to be paternalistic, to tell people things in absolute terms, because you really want to get adherence to whatever policy that you are trying to get people to buy into. And I think that's a little bit unfortunate. I think the society has moved on. I think with the internet, with social media, I think a level of transparency is very important, because the more mistakes you make in terms of your political messaging, the more it reduces people's credibility. And there's a very long memory in terms of communication in the public sector. People have a long memory for the mistakes that Fauci made. And he's put in a very difficult spot because of that. And I think he's still in the old school paternalism, physician paternalism mentality. And I don't think that's a good thing.
Timothy, I know you were a nurse for 10 years. Any thoughts, any feedback, or any questions for Dr. Hakim? You did it for 10 years, but you weren't around when COVID was out there. But what's your thoughts? I mean, I guess it's a good thing that you're not it's a hard thing to deal with. But what are your thoughts? Any questions or anything that you want to share? Or
yeah,
10 years is a long time that you do as a nurse,
Yeah, that's true. So, at the time, Dave, I was doing emergency room trauma nursing, right? So we did see a lot of communicable diseases come in, but obviously nothing like what the good doctor is experiencing now. I don't know if I have any specific questions, but I will say just kind of like on my perception, Doc, I would agree with exactly as you characterized it, just on what I see and with friends and family and people getting ill and those hard conversations that physicians have to have. I've had friends and family either directly experience that or I know someone who has. So nothing specific, but just my hat's off to you, Doc, for, keeping it together and the work that you do.
Are there Dr. Hakim, is there 3 things that you want to just share? I know like once a month we'll do like a little bit of an update, health update. 3 things that you want to share with people or just safety tips? I mean, again, so we think that people a little bit of hysteria in regards to, because of media and social media, everyone's, but I guess people are catching it more, even though they have the vaccination and the booster. I guess one question I had before the 3 tips, so if you want to add, but I guess my main thing is, do you feel like people need like another booster? Like I had 1 booster. Do I need a booster? I mean, they're saying, like, I think in Israel, right? They're on their 4th booster, the 4th or 5th shot. I mean, do you think that's going to be necessary? Because I don't think this thing's going away anytime soon. And I'm assuming there'll be another variant. I make a joke, even though it's a sad joke. There'll be Bumblebee, this whole world changing. There'll be another variant like a few months from now. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
So first, I'd like to say, in terms of boosting, in terms of vaccine effectiveness, is the term effectiveness. Sometimes you have to go, because I like to read the original source of the policies that we're making. And I love to read journals because you can get a lot from the language that they use. And sometimes you have to read between the lines. When people talk about efficacy of vaccines and efficacy of boosters, what they're really saying, if you read, is that they're talking about symptom control. They're talking about people who are symptomatic, who are exposed to COVID and come down to COVID with COVID in control groups, which are the people who didn't get the vaccine or didn't get the booster versus people who received the actual vaccine itself. So when you read right now about efficacy, just keep that in mind. These are people who are symptomatic, percentage of people with breakthrough cases who got vaccinated or got boosted. So why is that important? Because you're comparing people who got symptoms to things that you actually care about. You don't care necessarily about if you got symptoms from COVID. You care if you're hospitalized and you care if you're going to the ICU. And so everything that you've read so far about Omicron, certainly in the lab, it's telling you that there's a 20% decrease efficacy of the vaccine. And that the boosters have to be given more frequently to have efficacy, but none of it has actually a role to play in terms of saving your life, which is the number one thing that you care about. We don't have that data right now. And this is the uncertainty of what's happening right now that we need to convey, because in a lab, I can tell you right now that you need to be boosted 3 months after your 2nd shot, for instance. That's what the data is telling us. And that is only telling you half the picture. It's not telling you that Omicron is less deadly and, maybe people are okay with having an upper respiratory-like infection that doesn't go to their lungs. It doesn't cause them to get hospitalized. So people have to make that calculation for themselves. But if we're radically transparent about these things, they can make that calculation for themselves. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm talking to you guys.
Got it. So 3, if you want to just, as we finish up, what 3 tips to people? I mean, in general, is it still, washing your hands, 6 feet? I mean, is just anything different than the normal? Yeah.
I think the second point, I don't know if these are tips, but more points, is that I don't think that you can realistically feel safe with just social distancing and just masking, because this is so infectious that people don't even know how they got it. When you talk to people with Omicron, they can't tell you. If you were talking to people all throughout the pandemic, they know exactly what it was, what the high risk activity was. But here I'm seeing people get cases who didn't even partake in high risk activities, people who are very careful and still getting COVID. So there isn't a easy way to avoid Omicron. I think that would be point number 2. Point number 3 is, and not just the efficacy point, but the broader population-based point. If you look at Worldometer or any kind of statistics website that tell you cases versus death, first of all, if you look at countries that are not vaccinated in general, this is just my general point, that people are not dying as much per case as they used to early pre-vaccine. the areas that got vaccinated, the deaths were definitely attenuated. There was far less deaths in proportion to the amount of cases. And now when it comes to Omicron, we're seeing more cases than ever before. We're seeing new historic records with COVID all over the place. And we're not seeing an increase in deaths of appreciable amount. So during Delta, for instance, we would see very rarely a vaccinated patient die. And just to describe to your listeners what that looks like, we're talking about, an 87-year-old lady who is on a ventilator, who is doing better from a standpoint of her respiratory failure. But just being on the ventilator for 2 weeks has led to her contracting a secondary infection that's bacterial, unrelated to the COVID that she came in. Those are the types of deaths that we're talking about from vaccinated people. But in terms of unvaccinated people, we just really haven't seen, in terms of unvaccinated people, we haven't seen people who just did everything to avoid it and still passed away. Because what happens is that you really can't avoid things that are getting more and more infectious. And this virus is getting more and more infectious as we go on.
Got it. Well, I appreciate all the good work that you basically do. And, as a cop for 17 years, when I would go to a 911 call and I was like the first one to show up, I mean, I have no medical experience besides like CPR, but I was always hoping for that ambulance to show up quicker than I would, and then sometimes when you're so close, if someone's overdosing and so on. So I couldn't imagine what you've basically seen. I know when I've seen it as a police officer, it's horrible to see, death in general, but I know that you're there every single day on the front line, and I respect and appreciate everything that you're doing to help the people in your community, just like every other doctor in every little area, just like police officers are in every little area in the United States helping people, and so are you. So I appreciate all the stuff. I like to have you, once a month, kind of give us a little bit of an update, great information, and hopefully prayers, for everybody out there that's listening, that that you don't catch the virus, and basically that everyone remains healthy. So again, Dr. Alex Hakim, thank you so much for joining the show, and we'll probably have you in a few weeks again.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Take care.
So back to wow,
we're back. Here we're
back. It's kind of crazy because for the last 2 years, I personally have always been working. When a lot of people, when I was working in a law office, people were home.
Now, when you say working, I feel like it's
not really working.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I like to say it.
It's a loose term.
It's like playing.
It's a loose term for you.
It's like being a movie star. I just play one on TV.
Yeah.
So when I worked in an office, everybody was home, whether they were younger than me or skinnier than me or whatever it may be. People were home, not working. I was going to work every single day. I was the only one there, and I guess I was trying to prove like I'm working and hard worker.
Did you say skinnier than me?
Yeah,
you did, right?
Other people were skinnier than me.
Because I feel like that's probably most people.
I mean, because he mentioned, right, people that have a few extra pounds and are older, that he makes it sound like if you're really like thin and in good shape, you most likely wouldn't get it.
Or you wouldn't get it. Well, no, it's why you wouldn't get it as bad.
Yeah, like because you're a little bit healthier.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So
I'm obviously getting it. I mean, that's
you only got.
I mean, come on, that's a given.
I always felt as a cop, if I got shot, I had a few extra pounds on me, would help me. With
but you're not a cop anymore, so what's the excuse now?
There's no excuse. I'm still going with the old saying.
Okay, go ahead.
Once a cop, you're always a cop.
That's right. That's right. I saw the box of donuts on your truck.
So please do not take those donuts. So long story short,
go ahead.
I'm just saying that I have not contracted COVID, knock on wood, and my whole family has it. Prayers to them that they haven't. I know other people, but I'm just surprised. But now everybody, like I literally got a text message 20 minutes ago, like I have COVID. They were going to come out New Year's Eve, and I have COVID. So I just see it's kind of a scary, weird time in general. I mean,
it is.
But
holidays are disrupted, and families are broken apart, and people are sick or ill or worse. So it's tough. It's been tough.
So as we end out the 2021, I'm glad to finally get you on the show because I wanted to bring you on. I mean, you're an attorney, and I wanted to basically go through a little bit about yourself, how you help people in general. So how long have you been an attorney?
Sure. Yeah, I am an attorney. So I've been practicing for a little more than 4 years. And then, of course, before that, though, I had a separate career as a registered nurse, which you mentioned earlier. So that was about 10 years. So it's a second thing.
How do you find the difference? I mean, it's totally different, right? You got medical and legal. I mean, you totally did what was the reason why? I mean, 10 years is a long time to do anything. What made you transition over to be an attorney? Yeah,
it is. Well, good question. So I've always liked helping people, right? It's kind of my thing, just like you. You're the problem solver, and you've got your, your avenues that you do that. And as an emergency room nurse, that was my thing. I really enjoyed it. But I'm always up for the new, the next thing, right? The next challenge, the next hill. So I just decided, it was either going to be med school or law school. And law school went out, and here I am. So the transition, though, together, you say, how does that connect? It connects very well because, at its basic level, nursing is a customer service job, and what should be a customer service job. It was for me, and of course, the same thing with, with legal is the same. You're talking to clients, you're connecting, you're solving problems in a different way, but you're still solving problems, which is exactly what you do, and I do the same, but of course, in a different avenue. So that it crossed over very well, and of course, with my nursing background, various cases I have, the people medical knowledge. Yeah, injured people, or really anything, right? I mean, it could be anything with a medical or science sort of angle to it. I may understand more than the next attorney.
I know several attorneys, they're just very skilled in regards to like broken bones in their body. I mean, I'm assuming you have that skill set since you worked in the hospital for 10 years, right?
Skilled at breaking bones. Yeah, I've broken a few. But
the medical, not breaking them in general. That's your other job, though.
Yeah, that's right. No, you're right. So a lot of people, medical records are complicated. They're complicated.
Yeah,
Dave.
it's complex.
Yeah, and they're voluminous, as they say. They could be hundreds or sometimes thousands of pages for a hospitalization. And other firms or attorneys will hire,
an expert.
Yeah, experts or expert firms or consultants to go through all these notes and categorize and what's really issues. I have I've been blessed to be able to have that knowledge right now. And so I have a firsthand understanding of what those records say, what it means when tests come back or things happen. I can sort of make those decisions on the fly where other attorneys may have to, get consults for that.
Or research. Are you very good with, it seems so difficult to reading the doctor's handwriting and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like an expertise now, right? You have to.
Well, you should see my handwriting, Dave. It looks like,
Worse than the doctor?
It looks like ancient Egyptian with the, crosses. Well, yeah, it's tough. And actually, believe it or not, there's been cases where we have to depose a doctor and say, is this what you wrote? And then they're like, yeah, that's what it says. And it's totally unreadable. So that's a separate issue. But this is kind of a crossover medical knowledge is digital charts now are becoming required. So this handwritten.
But don't they write it out too and then it converts?
It should be, it's usually, well, now it's supposed to be typed or dictated. Okay. Yeah, is the way.
Is that like a requirement?
It's becoming standardized. I don't know if it's fully standardized across the country now, but I know that push was started a few years ago. So anybody that watching, don't fact check me on this. It's either all the way here or it's coming. I know it's already started.
I mean, it's much better than trying to read the chicken scratch.
Yeah,
what they're writing.
You should see like I said, it's terrible. So I understand.
What I will say this. I mean, I applaud you for being so studious that you basically become a registered nurse and then you wind up going back to school, to law school.
Twice, actually. Yeah, I mean, I have 2 law degrees, Dave.
Yeah,
don't sell me short here.
Why do you have 2?
I have a master's. So when I went to school, I just got 2 degrees at the same time. So to be an attorney, you have to have a JD, which is a Juris Doctor or something equivalent. And what attorneys do to specialize is they get an LLM, which is a Master of Laws. And you can only get your LLM in law if you already have your doctorate. It's kind of backwards. But I just had enough time and energy to do them both at the same time. So I actually walked twice for graduation. So I have a master's degree in law for gaming law and regulation. Of course, I also have my Juris Doctor as well.
It's amazing. I don't think I've ever, my mother always mentioned I should be a lawyer. But I was like, I want to be on the street. I want to be a cop. I want to be able to interact with people, So, but the schooling, even though I love school in general, I don't know if I could deal with that detailed.
It's a lot of work.
To be very detailed. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that.
So tell us a little bit. So you practice, what type of law have you practiced? What do you enjoy doing? But I guess for the last several years, what have you been practicing that you seem extremely successful with?
Yeah, good question. So I've actually, in sort of my history and my rather abbreviated history so far, but I've done a lot of different things. In my firm now, of course, we own our own firm. It's McAvoy, Amaya, and Revero Attorneys. We're located downtown in downtown Las Vegas. So we actually are full service general law. So we do criminal, we do civil, we also do appellate. But in that is included lots of things: commercial litigation. It could be criminal defense. It could be appellate or appeals for a crime or for a civil matter. It could be something like a housing dispute. It could be debt collection. And one of the things that we have, in addition to sort of the educational background of the firm, and I'll talk about my partner in a minute, we're both highly educated, is that we are also VA certified to help veterans. And that's unusual because it's an extra certification that most attorneys don't have. And there's some extra hoops you have to do, class you have to take, and the VA certifies you for that. So what have I done? A lot of things. What do we specialize in? Personal injury, criminal defense, and civil defense.
Okay. So with personal injury, are there any major success stories that you're able to share? I feel like the regular public is just very confused. Even myself, when I was a cop for this amount of time, I never knew about like the policy limits. I would show up and I'm like, oh my God, there's another accident. I would take a report and have to figure out who's, V1 and V2, who basically V1 would be at the person at fault.
Sure.
Any unusual cases that you want to share with people that would educate people as well about something that they don't know? Because a lot of people think that they get into an accident, they're going to win millions of dollars, right? Because you see all these commercials like, that they're going to win millions of dollars, right?
Yeah,
if you get into an accident.
Yeah, don't say anybody's taglines right now.
I was thinking of
unless it's mine, yeah.
In a crash, get some cash. That's a different tagline that goes somewhere.
I'm taking that now, so.
But, so my question to you is, everyone thinks they get into an accident and they're going to walk away with a bag full of money.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Dave. I'm glad
you asked. If I come to you, will you give me a bag of money if I get into an accident?
If it was you, absolutely not. But if it was no,
because Chase the engineer, he doesn't really know how to drive that well. So I was thinking about just driving. He can hit me from the rear.
Well, it's too late now because we just said this on air. So when we run over you in the parking lot,
can we delete this?
Yeah, can we fix this in post?
Actually, it's live.
Oh, it's like we can't fix it in post. There's no post. So good question, right? So what happens? Well, I would say a quick primer is that there's only enough money unless the person who hits you happens to be wealthy as the insurance coverage on the vehicle. And so the insurances in play could be, there's a few, right? There's your own insurance that you carry for uninsured or underinsured if you have it. And then there's the person who hits you, which we would call bodily injury. And there could even be another layer of insurance, which is the owner of the vehicle. So if the driver has their insurance and the owner is different, that could be two different coverages. So, at least four, and then medical payments. But the point is the sum total of those insurances, Dave, is what's available. Usually, does that mean that the person who hits you isn't on the hook for the rest? Well, it doesn't mean that they are, but the problem is you can't collect it because unless they happen to be, again, independently wealthy with assets, it's hard to get. And so it's limited to the insurance company. So to answer your question, Dave, directly, are you going to walk away with a bag of cash? Well, it's not about the money. It's about how hurt you are, right? So as an attorney, my job here is not to really get you a bag of cash. I mean, that's a happy side effect. But what we do is to get you better, right? We want to get you better. We want to get you fixed, get you feeling good, to pre-crash physical condition. And then depending on how long that takes is sort of how much the case is worth up to the limits of the insurance. So that's kind of a quick summary.
So here's a good question for you. I laugh because as social media is so new.
Sure.
Like I see these lawyers.
It's 15 years old now, though, right? So.
Well, I guess the social media of like Instagram and TikTok, like we have lawyers on TikTok with a check, with their client, and they were injured and it says $1.2 million. How
does that go?
I'm dancing around. I'm just trying to think. Because they're doing the boomerang thing, the boomerang, the check like this, right? And they go back and forth.
There we go.
So, but the thing is, it makes it seem like it's a lottery. But the person, shouldn't really, who's getting the check, they're happy to get a check of money, but technically they were in pain and suffering. Yeah. And they're smiling with the check. I just think it's kind of like a false.
It's weird.
It's a weird situation. I don't know if it's I guess it's good for the average consumer. They think, okay, I'm going to get a check if I get into an accident. Yeah. But then more people are making claims, and then insurance can go up as well. But I just feel it's weird on social media these days because people are smiling and they're dancing on a check as if it was a lottery check.
It's a weird space, Dave, because especially, and you're exactly right. So as an attorney, right, when I and my firm, my partner and when we talk to people that are hurt, you have to speak in kind of this, this dichotomy, right? It's like, okay, we're going to get you better. We're also going to try to get you some money in your pocket. And we kind of have to walk that line between, because it's not about the money. It's not for us anyway. It's about getting the person better. But at the same time, the money is a part of it. And so we have to try to sort of thread that needle with how we care for them and get them the right medical care they need, let the doctors do their thing, but also educating them on what their case may be worth and how it's worth that. And so it's kind of gross to talk about money, admittedly, as a personal injury attorney, talk about money at the same time as getting somebody better. But you got to put those things together. And the way we do it is, of course, with a loving, kind of a caring, hand, and it's whatever the clients need. So for us, our sort of motto is you just take care of the client and the money will follow. So you're right. It's weird, right? When you see people dancing around with this check and this huge thing, bigger checks come with bigger injuries, right? And so you can see these commercials and, I got, $800,000 or $1.2 million. that could be, a back, surgery, or it could be a death, or it could be a dismemberment or something. Like those are serious injuries. And so to tie it back, Dave, are you going to get a bag of money if you get into an accident? Well, if you're not seriously hurt, you won't. And one of the things we do is we make sure that the injuries are real, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want you to be honest with your doctors. Because
You actually sound like a good attorney.
Yeah, I know a couple things, Dave. I know a couple things. You sound like you could have been a good cop too. I don't know. It's
sometimes I was a good cop and I had to play bad cop. So
is that what it is?
Forth, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna workshop.
I don't know if you can do that as a lawyer. Can you be a good lawyer and then bad lawyer? They don't really teach that in law school.
No, I mean I think that's the other side. Yeah. We're obviously always going to be the good lawyers.
Like
so
I'm bad cop.
Yeah.
Bad cop.
Yeah. Exactly. I studied theater for that. Not really.
So the bottom line is that I like what you're saying. The goal is to get someone back to their physical condition.
Yeah, pre-crash physical condition.
Like that pre-crash condition.
Mm-hmm.
And the money should come for pain and suffering if there's money that's there.
Correct. Of the money that's available.
Right? So what I laugh about is that most people, and I'll bring this to Chase since he's in the room as the engineer here.
Sure.
Chase, do you know with your car how much your policy limits are? So if you hit somebody, how much money is there available? Do you know? Most people don't know, right?
What are you worth, Chase?
I have no idea.
No clue.
So that's a problem, right? Because if you were to get into an accident right now that was your fault, and you were to hit somebody, rich and famous like Dave here, who would have no ability to continue earning, do you have enough to cover that, or are you going to get sued, right? So that's the question.
And then the next question really is, which is, like I said, I never really followed all this stuff until recent years. Then he also, if he doesn't have health insurance, right, he needs to have extra insurance, such as what was it, MedPay? And
yeah, that's right, Dave. So one of the things that, and we're looking at you back there, buddy.
Chase is going to go out tomorrow.
Yeah, get it. Yeah,
I'm going to have multiple insurance.
Listen, we're going to talk to me after the show. I'll get you buttoned up. So what it is, I don't sell insurance. I'm just give you some advice.
Okay. Cool.
So there's medical pay. Yeah, medical payments coverage is one of the other coverages which I kind of glossed over earlier. But you have the insurance that covers if you hit somebody. You have the insurance that covers if somebody hits you and they don't have insurance. But then you have a third insurance, another bucket of sort of potential recovery, which just covers your medical bills, and it's no fault insurance. So if you're hurt for any reason, even if you're walking on the street and you get hit as a pedestrian, that money will come in to pay things like deductibles or the ambulance or whatever. And it's at least $1,000, I think, usually, but it can go up as high as you want. It's expensive. Mm-hmm. It must be offered in Nevada, so they have to give you the option to have uninsured motorist insurance. Yeah, and then of course the MedPay is an additional. So usually there'll be a waiver. Uninsured or underinsured must be offered for sure. MedPay, I have to double check, but it's no fault. So you just submit your insurance receipts with what happened. Could be an ambulance bill. They code it for medical, whatever the codes are, and they just send you back the money. And that's one of those things that can really be helpful, because if you don't have health insurance, for example, you might want to carry a higher medical payments coverage to cover the ER bill, maybe $15,000. Mm-hmm. If you do have health insurance, though, maybe you only need something to cover your deductible, $2,000.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that I've told people before is when I first came out here for meeting with my insurance agent, I would ask him like, hey, I'm trying Geico and Allstate, these different places, and I want to see which one's cheaper. So I remember them saying, well, do you need MedPay? And I said, well, what is MedPay? And they explained a little bit. I feel like I was just kind of clueless. Yeah. And so when they lowered the insurance, look, I could save you this money, but I didn't realize I'm losing a benefit. So when I talk to different attorneys, and the average public, I'm like, you really need to check what your insurance covers you. Yeah. And you need to become educated, because these days, especially in Vegas, there's like tons of accidents. People are getting injured. Especially there's a lot, more DUI taking place recently. And it just makes me nervous for people they don't know. And then the other thing is, if someone like Chase or any other person out there hits you, I always joke around saying it's kind of
I'm really concerned about him, actually.
He's like sweating back there. I need MedPay. I need insurance.
It's not that hot in here, so we got
So, but what happens, I say these days, it's kind of like a lottery, whoever hits you.
You're right.
Because if he has a $10 million policy,
or
you
zero.
Can treat. But if he has zero or he has no insurance, then you're out of luck unless you have your own insurance.
Yeah. So let me tell you a story about that, Dave. Since we're in story time. So I've
had put the story time lighting on.
Yeah. Can we?
That was the first time I said.
Do we have lamb chop in here? Yeah.
With the dim lights for the story time.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go.
I like that.
Okay, we got our production. Oh, they're back up. So Yeah. So, I had a client, a couple of clients that were in a serious wreck, bad accident, and they were in a very tiny vehicle. And obviously, you have to be vague with these, right? Because I don't want to have anything identifying. And they were impacted rather severely by a large commercial vehicle. So our clients were stopped, and the commercial vehicle hit them. The damage was so severe that essentially spinal surgery was required, and on both of them. Now, in this case, based on the medical bills and how long it took to get them better, that was $1 million case. So when you say, you're going to walk away with a bag of money, well, maybe, but and in this case they did, but they suffered for it, right? They had that, the injury. But the point I'm making is the coverage that was available was the coverage from the commercial vehicle. And if they would have gotten in that same impact by, I don't know, say an F-350, and somebody's just zoned out and crashes into them, and maybe this guy has state minimum, right? That $1 million case is worth the state minimum, which is $25K each, right? 25,000 plus 25,000 for a total of 50. Is that going to cover their spinal surgery? No, of course not. Is it even going to cover really anything? No, because one visit at the doctor. I mean, it's nothing, right? So in this case, not only do they not get fairly compensated, but what's ultimately more important for us is they don't get the ability to get better, because without health insurance, there's no money to fix them. And so that case was a fortunate result on our end. Unfortunately, they were struck and were in a crash. So that's why the appropriate levels of insurance is so important. And a lot of people don't realize, as you said, you're saving money on MedPay, but what are you losing is that benefit. As for people with health insurance, maybe it doesn't matter as much. Maybe you just need 1,000 or 2,000. But what everyone should carry at least state minimum coverage for UIM, which is under or uninsured motorist coverage, which would cover you if someone hits you and they don't have insurance or they don't have enough. So in Nevada, what happens is you have your uninsured or underinsured coverage will actually stack. So if you have 25K un or under, and the other guy or girl or a person has 25K, then you have 50K total to treat. And you could pay for as much UIM coverage as you want. Most, people, if they're going to carry it, will carry at least the minimums, and they kind of go up from there. So
I know we kind of keep talking about this one topic, but the more I'm involved in, I just feel bad for society when it's the policy limits are so low when people hit you. And I for some reason, I've been dealing with a lot of hit and run people recently where they have no insurance and they're injured. And, I just feel really bad. Like, I feel like, and I know there's probably lobbyists, right? The insurance companies, like, I wonder, I don't know how the other states are, but like it's 25.50 here, but it used to be what? It used to be
15.30, right? 15.30, and California as well.
It's still low, right?
It's 25. They just came up to 25. Yeah. And so most states now are coming up.
25.50
are coming up, but 15K is not enough. And
I kind of feel like it needs to be
25K is not enough. But so here's the problem,
it just gets so expensive, right?
Well, that's right, Dave. So you have to thread the needle, or you have to run that gauntlet of requiring a certain amount of insurance to protect the public, but making the limits low enough that it's affordable, that enough people can get it. Yeah. And so that's really the issue, right? So do we force people to carry 100, 300 coverage? Yeah, that'd be great. But so then the people that have it are well insured. But I would think that you may have a corresponding increase in uninsured because they just simply can't afford insurance at all. So that's the issue. But yeah, we don't need to get too deep into this, but that's definitely the concern.
So what you do is, it's a good point you said with the hit and runs that I deal with a lot, especially when I was doing more criminal defense working in a firm.
Yep.
With hit and runs, do you feel like if the person gets arrested and they don't have insurance, do you feel like whatever the medical bills are, like they should be responsible, like kind of like a lien on that person?
Well, they are responsible,
the future?
Dave. Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
So if I have $100,000 worth of injuries of medical bills and someone gets arrested for a DUI and they have no insurance or just are hit and run, but they get the person, are they responsible?
Yeah. Yeah. So if a person, so this is just regular, tort law, right? Mm-hmm. If you or someone injures someone else, you're financially responsible for that if you're legally liable. The question is, and this is why we're talking about without insurance, how do you get it? So if you were to go and that person gets arrested and they go to court and you as the injured victim submit your proof to the court of how hurt you are, there are some programs that can help, right? Which we can refer clients to sometimes if needed. Victims of crime and stuff like that can help pay some things, but it's bills only. It's not anything. So there's no pain and suffering. It's just straight reimbursement. It's oftentimes not the entire bill, and then the person who hits them will be usually ordered restitution. And we've heard that in your criminal cases, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the bill that they owe for the damage they've caused. The court will order that. But the issue is
trying to collect.
How do you collect? Especially if, what if somebody, heaven forbid, died, right? What if it's a manslaughter or something like that, a DUI or hit and run or whatever, and somebody's, has been killed and the restitution is $2 million or something or whatever it may be, and that person's in jail. How are they going to pay you restitution unless they happen to be independently wealthy? And so that's why insurance is just so important to compensate that harm.
So here's a good question for you. So in my experience, most lawyers are taking on cases when the other person has insurance. And if they don't have insurance, then they're like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. So then how do you get an attorney? So for all these hit and run cases where they actually get the person, they have no insurance and there's medical bills and they're injured, what lawyer is accepting those cases? Because now that you bring up a topic, I've never dealt with a lawyer that stated I'm taking those cases, and I'll go after that person. And sad to say, a lot of these times that people have no insurance, they don't have any money in general, but who knows what their future may be, right?
Sure.
So is that a case that you actually would accept?
So,
because I know there's something called an asset search that you could search to see if someone has assets. Like if Donald Trump hits you, he has assets you can go after. But if the person has no assets, would you still take on a case like that?
Well, if there truly is no assets to go after and there's no insurance, this is the unfortunate reality of this space, is we would not take that case because we would have, unless we were doing it as a pro bono, which of course would be a one-off, right, or limited. But we couldn't do that for everybody because how do we stay in business? Yeah. Exactly. How do we support that when we're, and these cases take money.
So can a regular person then follow through? Like I know the small claims court, which I think is up to 10,000.
Yes. And
then after 10,000 goes to,
justice or district court, right? Justice court, district court. So yes, anybody. So here's a little bit of tip, right? So if somebody gets into an accident and an attorney won't take it for whatever reason, you absolutely can file in the small claims court. You send a demand letter, and the instructions are of course easily Googleable, but on the court's website, send a demand letter, ask for the bills back, plus your pain and suffering, take it to small claims court. You serve them. Maybe you win, maybe you don't. But if you win, you're going to win up to the limits of small claims court. And so, maybe that's the move, right? If an attorney won't take it, you'll still get that judgment. It'll be small. And then you can attempt to collect it on your own through various avenues. But unfortunately, this is the problem. Without insurance, there's just no way a law firm could stay alive.
I hear.
And so I get these calls all the time. It's a hit and run, or it's some serious accident, and they couldn't find the person that caused the accident. Our potential clients have no insurance, and there's no way to track this other vehicle down, and they're badly damaged, and we have to turn it down.
Do you feel a regular person, if it's over 10,000 and it goes to justice and district court, that they can handle the paperwork on their own for an accident case where they identify who the person is that doesn't have insurance? Is it something you think that they can handle on their own, or they really need to hire an attorney more on an hourly basis?
That's a really good question. So I don't want, of course, everyone has their own skill sets and previous, knowledge. Would I say that the average person could handle it on their own? No, probably not. It's a lot of paper. Once you sue somebody, there's going to be discovery, responses and subpoenas and just all these sort of things that need to be due and deadlines. I don't think the average person, Dave, would be able to do it. You could hire an attorney piecemeal to do, documents, as needed. Sure.
It's the first time I've actually brought up this topic because recently people have been mentioning the hit and run situation, and I'd never really normally I refer them to different attorneys through the legal network. And what I noticed is with the hit and run, I kind of feel bad, but I will share with you one thing that's kind of interesting. Well, first of all, I'll ask you a question about it. Yeah. Are you familiar with the state law? Because there's different cameras all over the valley on these intersections. I believe when I was a cop, people would say, "Oh, can't you just rewind the camera, at the intersection?" Now, I thought
they don't record.
They don't record, right?
No, they don't record. Here, they don't. The state. It's my understanding that the state and the county does not record it. They are recorded, But you can, as the public, it's not public access. You got to pay somebody to retrieve it.
So I was always told that like legally it wasn't recorded. Like, that's what I heard. I mean, I haven't looked this up.
What do you mean legally?
Like legally that the state is not allowed to record, that they were always using for traffic. They're always just looking at the cameras for traffic, but it was not recording. I thought the state law was because there's lobbyists that are against it. It's like it's an invasion of privacy that you're at a stoplight. They were always fighting it in general.
I don't have the answer to that, Dave. That's a good question.
So the reason why I bring it up,
what are you so worried about that you're going to be recording?
I'm worried when I'm at a light.
I'm just saying, tint your windows,
my nose,
tint your windows,
whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
The reason why I bring it up is that recently I found someone on social media where they are recording the cameras.
Yeah, you can do that.
But the guy appears to spend like $500,000.
Yeah, that's right.
To set up a system.
It's expensive.
And people, when they get into these hit and runs, they're like messaging like, "Hey, can you help?" So it looks like he opened kind of more of a forensic type of business.
Yeah.
And he's working with some different law firms. But it was the first time I heard of it. And again, I feel bad for people that are hit and run cases.
Yeah.
So my thought process was to like get with him and figure it out. But I was notified that they were never able to record per state law. And there was lobbyist people fighting it, that it was like an invasion of privacy. That was one of the jokes. Like, what are you doing at a red light that we can't see? But for some reason, that's what I was always told. I need to do some research, but I never knew of any company out there that was actually recording.
No, there's more than one.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, and this is, you have to forgive my inattention to this, but I am not familiar if it's a state law. I know they don't record, but I don't know if it's specifically against the law. But yeah, and basically these feeds are active for anybody that wants to set up the appropriate connections. And there are some defense firms, big defense firms in town that run their own server farms and they record everything. And so when these lawsuits come down, they'll produce this video like, here you go. And where did this come from? It's like, they just have it because they spend whatever it costs to run this firm, run the server farm to pull all these feeds and record it. And that can happen. But there is another company out there, and whose name escapes me, where you can order these videos. It's really expensive, Dave. It's thousands.
Just to try to do the video.
Yeah.
Like I said, people call me all the time. They're like, "What should I do?" It's a hit and run. Happened at Sahara, the Boulevard. And I'm like, no, there's nothing really you can do. If there's no witnesses and stuff like that. And then recently, I'm supposed to hook up with the guy that does it to try to figure out how we could work together. Yeah. Because I feel bad. And I think, first, I think
it's a great service.
It's a great service.
Yeah.
It's a great business probably because there's a lot of hit and runs.
Especially, Dave, if it could be made affordable, right, for the average person. For the law firms have some of them have resources to spend on these things. But, like you said, the average person who's on the street, how do they get access to this stuff? They can't get to it from the state's transparent, freedom of information type laws. And so it just doesn't exist.
So what's your thoughts in regards to right now? Like we're going into a New Year's, Eve.
Yeah. New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. We got one day left, which is kind of incredible. 2022.
Here it is on the way out.
So it seems like recently there's been a lot more DUIs and people dying and violence. And actually, it's actually 5:22 right now. I was actually on channel.
I saw that.
Channel 3. I was on 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock with Channel 3 talking about DUIs.
I saw you on that earlier.
What's your take with, since your firm does criminal as well, what's your take on these DUI cases where people, whether it's marijuana or alcohol, it just seems, it seems like just people are just more, reckless. I don't know if it's because of COVID, what's going on. Just what's your take in regards to general, especially with this football player, everyone's going kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was, don't get me started. How stupid. Well, first, just let me just say PSA, Lyft and Uber are so cheap. And even if it's surge pricing and it's going to cost you triple or 5 times, even if your Lyft costs you $100, that's still going to be cheaper than killing somebody, right? And let's talk about this. Like, what's your freedom worth, right? As you know, as an officer. So this New Year's Eve, let's just put take a ride, right? Or have a sober driver. Also be aware that the Las Vegas monorail is running $1. It's $1 rides for everyone all night. So, take advantage of that as well. And I know that some towing companies have, they'll tow your car, sober tow or something. So anyway, having said that, we specialize in DUIs. We do a lot of them. And, I don't know if, I don't know, is it COVID? Is it maybe people are frustrated, or is it just maybe the lack of, in the last, 18 months, the availability of proper rideshare, right? Because there was a time there when you couldn't catch a rideshare for less than $50 to go across a small amount of time, and maybe that would help. we do see, I have seen an uptick in DUIs. I don't know why. And it's across all avenues too, marijuana, alcohol, other, sort of other versions of intoxication. The DUIs that we look at are not, they're sort of indiscriminate.
Do you feel that because all these marijuana, I keep seeing all these marijuana places popping up.
Yeah, of course.
The people that I would talk to, they would say, well, I smoke all the time. It's always in my blood. I smoke daily.
That's a problem.
I'm like, when did you smoke before the DUI? And they're like, well, I smoked 3 hours prior or 5 hours. But not that I'm an expert at any of this stuff whatsoever, but it just seems no matter what, a police officer can arrest somebody when they just see bloodshot, watery eyes with the smell of marijuana. Even though it's legal marijuana, you can't be driving under the controlled substance of marijuana.
Well, yes, but if you have bloodshot, watery eyes, you're definitely intoxicated and shouldn't be driving. But yeah, that's a question, right? So I know that certain states are experimenting with, saliva or sort of rapid tests for marijuana. Because marijuana it's fat soluble, right? And so it stays testable for a long time. So somebody smokes on Sunday night, and then Monday night, 24 hours later, they haven't smoked for 22 hours. They get pulled over for something unrelated, and they take a drug test. This marijuana shows up way over the legal limit, but that was 24 hours ago-ish. That's not fair. And so how do they properly accommodate that? They don't, actually, and that's a real problem. That's one of the things that we as defense attorneys can fight when we see blood results that are not correlated with with the actual scene. Marijuana stays testable just for so long. Whereas alcohol, it's pretty clear. It's got a very linear sort of curve, how it comes down in the body from where it is and what it is time-wise and weight. They can estimate it very accurately. Marijuana, they cannot. Other drugs, cocaine, heroin, benzodiazepines, things like Valium. Again, those all have a pretty linear curve. Marijuana does not, and that's a real problem. So people are, in fact, have a case that came across my desk fairly recently. I can't get into too many details. He got charged with essentially a marijuana DUI, and he smoked 26, 28 hours previous. And he's like, this is not, I didn't do this, and so we're gonna have to go in there and fight that. And we're gonna have to fight these blood results that show he's over the legal limit, even though it was a day before. And you're not high a day later. You're just not. And
that's what I mentioned on TV. Most people don't know, as a police officer, like I said, as long as you smell marijuana and they just look someone
as a police officer, they're going to smell marijuana, Dave.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, they even say with alcohol that you could smell an unknown alcohol substance, emanating from the body. Right?
Yeah, but they're always going to
sweating it.
They're always going to smell some marijuana. Okay, I mean,
well, they have to have the totality, right? So it's the eyes, the watery, the redness, the smell. Most likely, people out here, everyone admits to it. Like, I was just smoking, 8 hours ago. Right?
Sure.
So enough. I just think people don't realize that any of these little comments or any of these little elements,
everything's
of the crime,
a problem.
It becomes probable cause to be arrested.
That's right.
And then you're going to spend $3,000 to $10,000 to get yourself out of the mess.
That's right.
And so it's a problem. So today I was talking about just, you cannot be smoking and getting into a car. And then a lot of people, I'm not sure if you know, when I was a cop, that people would want to smoke. They wouldn't want to smoke marijuana in the house, so they would go to their car.
And sit in the car.
They sit in the car and smoke.
Put the key in the ignition. They got the radio on.
Exactly. So
now you got a DUI.
Control of the vehicle, right, is basically a DUI.
That's right. That's right.
But even if they don't, they drive the next day, the car smells like marijuana.
Right. Which
eventually some cops are going to take out a canine dog. They're going to think there's marijuana in the car, or it's just not a good situation. It's hard because, smoking marijuana or edibles is legal.
And the laws here
they
haven't caught up. So you're right. Some people sort of exclusively smoke in their vehicles. And is that probable cause when it's recreational legal to pull somebody over because their car smells like marijuana? I don't know. I mean, I don't think that by itself should be enough, especially when it's legal to have in your car. You could just have it on your passenger seat, just sitting there. You can do that because you just came from the dispensary and you open it, you smell it. Okay, put it back. That's enough to pull you over and search your car. It's a legal substance. So the laws haven't caught up yet. And that's one of the things we need to work on as a state.
I know that you also have a partner that you work with. You want to tell a little bit about your partner?
I do, yeah.
Is he as good looking and skinny as you? Or is
well, it's hard to be as good looking as me, Dave. Let's be honest here.
Hard.
This is the moneymaker right here. Yeah, this takes, I'll just wake up like this. Okay, this is, years of
work,
polishing,
and moisturizer.
Absolutely, the moisturizer by the tub. So, my better half, Michael McAvoy Maya, he is the other half of our firm, and he's our very accomplished litigator. He's also highly educated. He has degrees in accounting and business as well. He is, when it comes to litigation writing and appellate arguments and just all that stuff, we're connecting dots. I mean, he's just top notch. We couldn't have the firm that we have without the support of my partner, Mike. And I wish he could be here today. He had some legal drafting to do, in fact, which is why he couldn't be, but that's what he does. And yeah, he is the other half of the firm, and we wouldn't have a firm without him, without both of us together.
Got it. And I know that you've worked for a large firm. What's your thoughts with, I know that you have experience working with a large firm, if you want to share with that. And then now you start your own firm in general. What's your contrast of some people like, I need to go to a really big firm, and then some people disagree with that. What's your thoughts with both of that?
Yeah. So we started our own firm, right? I didn't start it together, my partner, Mike, and I, but I've worked for several large firms, medium and very large firms. And what are my thoughts on it? Well, you mean as an attorney, becoming an attorney, or just...
No, working like in a larger firm. Like some people, like you talked about, I saw a billboard and, I want to call that attorney because it looks like it's a large firm or a small firm. Like what's your take on large firms and small firms? I mean, are they both good? Do you believe that a smaller niche firm, is better than a large firm?
Yeah.
What's your take?
Well, I certainly think that the boutique firms like we are, I'm a little biased because we own one. I own one with my partner. You're going to get better customer service, in my opinion. You're going to get that phone call. You're going to get your attorney's cell phone number. You're going to get somebody real. And this is how I dress in the office, Dave. I mean, I came from work in this, in my beautiful shark shirt. And you're not going to get stuffy sort of corporate policies. You're going to get somebody real like me. In some of the larger firms, you might be stuck behind that guy in the suit that maybe is making decisions based on corporate policy. You have a problem. Maybe he's got to run it at the flagpole. He can't address it. He or she cannot address it directly.
Good point.
And at the same time, at the bigger firms, maybe those attorneys have 100, 200, 300 cases. At my peak when I was at a larger firm, I think I ended up, 275 cases at my largest, with help, right, with case managers. But how do you love every client like that? Like they're your family. You can't. You have to have your team do it, and that's okay. But that's not how we do it, right? When somebody comes into my office, they sit on my couch. They get a soda from my my personal fridge, and we just kind of talk. We solve their problem, and so I certainly think that the boutique firm is going to provide a better experience. Now, that's not to say the big firms aren't great. Some of them can be, but I just think the customer service is going to be in a smaller firm, and not just because I own one with my partner, Mike. I think it's going to be better. And again, you get our cell phones.
It leads to a good question, which is kind of interesting. Like I said, I've worked with 2 different law firms where I worked full-time there, like as a director of client relations and case manager in general. And I always used to feel that in the beginning that a lawyer that's wearing a suit and tie, it's very prestigious, and that everybody should be in a suit and tie. And I don't
wear a suit and tie, Dave.
So I guess what's your take when you meet with different clients? Because I know there's other clients that come in, they don't want to see the suit and tie. So in today's age, in 2022, do you feel if someone gets arrested or an accident, it's about the suit and tie and the look? Or do you feel it's just more the personality and the relationship?
It's definitely about the look, but the look isn't the suit and tie. This is my look. Clients appreciate this, and it's about the personality and down to earth. What clients always say to me and my partner, Mike, is they always say, well, you don't look like a regular attorney. And we go, thanks. That's on purpose. And then they say,
like, this beard is just made up. I'm just doing this for show.
I take this off at night, actually. It's like, I have a beard.
And then you hang it on the wall?
That's right. Well, no, it's a tiny little head I stick it to. No. Yeah.
This is not on purpose.
It's not on purpose. My eyebrows come off too. So no.
So people generally, here's a story.
Let's hear it.
Very straight. You're a very smart guy. Became a nurse. You have your degrees. You're very educated. People may not even see that. I know you have it.
And so is my partner as well. Is extremely
educated. So it's really about, I think, the relationship that you would have with a person and your education and your experience. I guess everyone's a little bit different, right? But I think 2022, the younger people may really appreciate you just being a casual, dressed, and very not stuffy type of suit and tie lawyer. Like you're better than me type of thing. Yes.
And that's not to say that the suit. So let me just, all of my friends and colleagues that wear a suit and tie.
Thumbs up.
Keep doing what you're doing right here.
Okay.
Keep doing what you're doing because that's what you do. That's your thing. That's your jam.
Everyone's different.
Our jam is we look, we kind of look like this, and we talk to you like it's like a friend, and this is what it is, and that's our jam, right? So whatever works. But I will say, to answer your question directly, yeah, I would say there's a certain demographic of client or potential client that wants to see somebody that they're going to meet at the bar, or that they're used to talking to. Yeah, and just to tell it straight. And that's what we do. I think you're absolutely right. Suit and tie. If somebody gets arrested and put in jail, do they want to see a suit roll up? Maybe in jail they might. But when it comes down to the person who's going to defend them and have their back, I think it's much more important to be able to talk to them on a personal level. And that's what we do.
Relationship communication is key.
That's all it is. Relationships. Yeah. And like I said this previous, just take care of the client and the money will follow, right? So you kind of back away from that corporate, lawyers are expensive and they're just, mosquitoes trying to get their money, and more like, hey, this firm really wants to help us. And if they can make a little money doing it, great. And that's kind of the way our clients feel about us.
I heard once, someone told me once that, he's wearing a suit and tie, that this law firm must be very expensive because he's wearing a suit and tie.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make a difference in regards to the legal services, right?
Sure.
Of the cost.
I mean, you get suits from Goodwill, so I mean.
Yeah. One of the questions I want to ask you, I know it's hard being an attorney, it's stressful dealing with different clients and different cases. How do you feel your balance with work and life, for yourself or for other attorneys, in general? What's your take on that? Because you probably take a lot of this stuff at home with you at night, whether it's criminal defense or injured clients that you feel bad about. Even like myself, I feel bad for many people, like the hit and runs. What's your take? How is it? Is it easy? Is it hard? Do you balance time, work life and work? Yeah,
Dave, and well, you're 24 hours. I mean, people call you, text you. I mean, I get calls from you, at 3 a.m, for stuff. So
it's an addiction.
I do not, if you're not already my client, for those watching, I will not pick up your call at 3 a.m. But for the clients that are my clients, it's very much the same. We do take it home. Work-life balance, it blurs. It does blur. So we have to carve out time. I live at the office. I mean, I'm there late, and I'll come to clients' houses. And so it's tough, but also your clients, at least for us, become our friends. And so it makes it easier to blend sort of work and life. Now, that was a roundabout way of not answering your question. To answer a question directly, we have to carve out time. So, we work week or work day is the work week and work day. But, if it's a weekend or after a certain time, maybe we put the phone on silent for a few hours, or you have to carve out time. And for us, it is a little harder because, especially for us, particularly, all of our clients have our cell phones. And if they have problems, they're going to text us for anything. And it could be anything. I bought this goldfish and he died. What can I do? Stuff like that. So it is tough to be, to sort of properly balance, self-care, but we love what we do and we take care of our clients. And so if that line blurs, that's okay with us.
Okay. Well, it's good to hear, man. Like I said, I think that whatever you're doing for work-wise, you have to balance it, and it's not an easy job. And you put, you have these lives of people that are injured that are basically, looking for you to help, and also to get compensated and to make sure they're going to the doctors and they're worried about their bills. And I know I deal with a lot of people
or
that
defended,
are stressed.
right? Criminal, and we also represent kids, right? And so now when you represent a minor who's done something serious, felony level, your client is the child, right? Technically, but really it's the parents too. And so you have to make sure everybody feels good and questions are answered. It's just, we couldn't do what we do without, just caring about clients. That's really what it is, because it's a lot of work. If we didn't love it, we couldn't do it.
So as we're wrapping up in general for 2022, any tips in regards to anything in regards that you want to share as an attorney? Like I said, you got vast experience in general. Anything that you want to share for 2022 for people in regards to anything legal in general? They know they can always call myself the problem solver. I can always direct them to you. You're out there as well in the community, so people know you. But
I need a cool name, Dave. Can we?
The problem solver too?
Oh, come on. I'm gonna, I'm my own
the
thing.
Fixer? The injury fixer?
Yeah, that sounds like, I don't know about that. Just Attorney Tim, I guess we'll go with. So any legal tips? I mean,
any tips in general that you want to share with people? Because you've seen a lot. Whether it's accident or people arrested
or whatever.
Having an attorney for different things.
How do I feel about it?
Anything that you want to share? I just feel like everything's changing every single week. We talked about COVID and everything. Like people a lot of people message me about employment.
Yeah.
Like the other day, employment law.
We do that too, by the way.
You do employment, okay?
Mm-hmm. We do everything's.
Someone messaged me the other day as a problem that they were not vaccinated and they got COVID and then they won't pay their, I don't know if it's weekly salary or unemployment or something because they didn't get the vaccination. So like, there's all kinds of things going on with the vaccination and employment.
Yeah, the question is that legal or not?
So it's like every week something's changing. These are great questions to ask.
So if or
forced vaccination.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we
job.
do is I have questions like that as well. I won't necessarily go into that right now. But if an employer mandates a vaccine and then say if you get COVID and you're not vaccinated, we're not going to pay you. I don't know if that's legal, but I'm not going to really get into it
Because it's complex.
Yeah, it's too complex an issue. I would just say that just being mindful of the sort of legal landscape that we're in right now. If you're a landlord, be aware of the changing laws as far as landlord tenant, because there's been a lot of stuff. I'm also an eviction mediator with the state of Nevada for eviction cases as well.
Can you actually? I forgot to bring that up.
Sure.
Let's talk about that.
That's
for a
extra,
quick minute.
Dave. If you want to,
that's extra.
Yeah, I got to.
Can we get this guy paid here for this extra segment?
And you know what? I didn't. The crab cakes weren't here when I came earlier, so
Make sure there's shrimp and wings next door available for him.
People are getting paid?
Yeah. Oh, he didn't know.
Wait, you're not getting paid?
He's actually a volunteer.
Oh man,
This is a nonprofit.
no, I'm I'm not getting paid either for the audience. So
Tell me what your title is. How'd you get that as well? Because I want to bring that up because eviction's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I feel bad when people call me and I'm just like,
how do I get the title?
yeah. So you were appointed, right?
Yes, I was
Tell us
actually.
about
Yeah, I will tell you about that.
So this is a good topic of evictions.
Evictions. So you have to be first of all, you have to be a court certified mediator.
Okay.
And what that means is that you typically have to have 40 hours or more plus real world eviction mediation experience, right? I had that experience because I actually did mine through a satellite class from the Strauss Institute, which is from Pepperdine, very prestigious alternate dispute resolution school. So I had that sort of coursework done already, and then with the mediation experience, and then with some further classes through the state bar in combination with one of the nonprofits, the Supreme Court of Nevada actually wrote an order that said my name in it, said that I'm allowed to be an eviction mediator for this program. That's how it worked. And everybody that's in this program had the same credentials, whether they went to, the class that I did, or they went through maybe the local mediation center at the Justice, law
I've been
center.
through the Clark County Justice mediation.
Yeah, exactly right. And but the mediators they're all quite good. They have at least 40 hours of real world mediator class work, plus supervised mediations, and then that's what happens. So what I do is and what I've done is when someone's being evicted, there's a mandatory mediation that comes with it now. And I intervene. I step between the tenant and the landlord and try to.
How many a month do you do? I never got a chance to ask you.
It varies. Yeah, it varies.
You're doing like a few a month?
Yeah, because I'm busy, right? You get to choose. You get to choose your workload. So, during its peak, I was probably doing 1 to 4 a week.
It's a lot.
Yeah, depending, right? But you get to choose. But I had some other attorney friends that I know that were mediators as well that were doing, 16, or they had like 5 a day or something. It's like, yeah, and that gets spread out. But the point is, what we do is we get between the landlord and the tenant. Tensions are high, and the way I did it is I didn't even have them speak. I did what they call an asynchronous or shuttle mediation. So I talked to one, I talked to the other. They never spoke, and the point is to get the landlords paid,
unbiased.
Mm-hmm. Get the landlords paid, keep the tenants in their home. And that's what we all do. It's been a very successful program. It's been extended. So, yeah.
Is that related with CHAPS?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So is that connected?
It's not.
CHAPS helps pay.
Yes. It's not related, but right? It's part of the things that we can do. So CHAPS, for those of your viewers that don't know, is one of the programs that pays back rent if it's COVID related. So what we have the ability to do as mediators, we can actually stay the case pending CHAPS relief, right? So once the application is filed, if a tenant has filed here's your landlord advice. A tenant has filed rental assistance application. That is an affirmative defense to being evicted. So if you as a landlord know that your tenant has filed for this and they're just waiting for it, and they've sent you an email that says that they're waiting,
they cannot
be evicted until that application gets denied or granted. Okay. And so that's, you asked for some advice, some very focused advice would be that, be aware of the changing landscape and the landlord tenant laws, because a lot has changed. And then when the rental assistance comes through, An agreement form, could be made by the mediator, or otherwise it's filed in the court, and the case usually gets dismissed, or it gets otherwise adjudicated depending on what the agreement is. So, yeah, some really exciting developments on that.
So I'm glad you brought that topic up. So let's just as we recap and as we close, just name the practices of law that you handle. So if people need help that are listening, that can reach out. What are the practices? We have criminal. I'll let you go through them.
We do everything. I mean, it's a long list. So the big one's criminal. So full service, general, civil, and criminal, and also appellate. But what does that mean? So criminal defense, commercial litigation, veterans' rights, could be a VA disability claim. It could be anything with the VA. Union law, labor law, employment law. We'll do, just anything. We'll do sexual harassment claims. We'll do discrimination claims. We love, I'm sure you never had this issue, but we love police brutality claims. We do a lot of those as well with Metro. Okay. Any kind of, serious injury caused by an officer or, an agent of the state. So basically we do just about everything. What do we like? Criminal defense, civil defense, personal injury.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought all these topics up, especially the eviction stuff, because we haven't had anybody talk about evictions, and I'm a little bit familiar with.
I know some stuff, so
you seem, even though even though that you have this educational background and you have this amazing good look,
I know it's
you
hard.
are very knowledgeable of what you do.
Yeah, this just having this face on your show, I think I should.
I just heard that we just hit 12,000 views just alone for Timothy Revero as a hashtag and good-looking attorney.
Here we go.
And we're very high, so I'm really glad about that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's about what I usually get. We're going to
have you on the show a little bit more often.
Yeah, I'd be happy to,
since things are going viral as we speak.
I'd be happy to, Dave.
So I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Like I said, you shared a bunch of information.
Sure.
We'll find some great, golden nuggets here. We'll share it some different places. I really appreciate your time. And sometimes actually the hour that we're talking about, I become a little bit more educated as well. Yeah. Which actually helps me when I talk to people, since I'm not an attorney. Yeah. I'm always referring them to the right attorney. So when something comes up, and a lot of times these like discrimination, all these things. I mean, I hear so many different problems. I'm like, who do I turn to?
Well, we do it all.
Yeah,
we do all of it, Dave. Yeah,
maybe that should be a tagline.
I mean, we're getting real close to another. There's another jingle that we can't. What our tagline is though? It is McAvoy, Amaya, and Revero attorneys who care. That's our line.
Well, I definitely, I really appreciate your time. I'd like to have you come back on the show in the future. Actually, one thing I'm doing too is when certain people come on, like depending who, like let's say it's an insurance agent, like I can have you come back and co-host as well.
With an insurance agent? Oh man, that would be like
a good one, right?
Ooh, that would be like an MMA kind of thing. I'd have to stare them down.
Well, I wanted to, I think it's good to have some good topics in general.
It would. We treat everyone like people.
But we could beat them up in the back or something like that.
We can't. Yeah, we got to cut that out in post too. We can't because they're going to know we threatened them.
So anyway, I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, I'm. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And then I'll see you actually next year, which is 2022.
It's like 2 days, Dave. Yeah, come on.
I hope that everyone drives safely out there as well. And
yes.
They don't need Timothy Revero basically showing up at the jail to bailing them out or, God forbid, an accident where they're injured. So anyway, so I'm Dave Kohlmeier, retired police officer helping people. I appreciate you guys watching and listening on the show every single week, every Thursday from 4:30 to 5:30. I go live meeting with other problem solvers like Timothy Revero, Dr. Alex Hakim, which basically made a quick visit talking about COVID. I hope everyone is blessed, health, happiness, and humor for 2022. I hope that this COVID passes us, doesn't come to your home, to you in general, and your family. And as usual, be safe out there. If you need something, I'm Dave Kohlmeier, the problem solver, and I'll see you next year.